The Chunin Exams is many people's favorite arc in the Naruto series, and for a good reason. It is an amazing arc, and it has become absolutely iconic in the entire anime genre. So today I'd like to do something a little bit different, and talk about 26 facts that are not so well known about the Chunin Exams. Now yes, you're probably gonna know a few of these if you've watched Naruto before, but I guarantee you're gonna learn something new today. At least one of these facts are gonna be news for you. So let's begin with number 1. Kishimoto didn't intend on doing the Chunin Exams arc. At least not at that time and point in the story, because Kishimoto's original plan after the Land of Waves arc was for him to do more arcs when Team 7 went through missions. They were going to encounter shinobi from other ninja villages and have fights, major arcs, and also rivalries with them. However, Kishimoto's editor at the time decided that it was best for Kishimoto to keep the pacing very fast and include a tournament arc after the Land of Waves arc, which usually gathers a lot of hype from the nature of how the story is structured and shonen readers tend to like very much. It's a very specific type of arc, but that is very much expected in a battle shonen, and people like it. Many of the ideas that Kishimoto was having for these hypothetical arcs that were going to happen after the Land of Waves, and didn't, were actually implemented in the Chunin Exams themselves. Guy, for example, Kakashi's main rival, was initially going to be a character from another village that was going to become a rival of Kakashi in one of those arcs, but then Kishimoto was like, oh yeah, well I guess I'll just make him a leaf ninja now. And talking about this decision, on the one hand, I understand wanting to do this tournament arc to make the story very hype, so people keep on reading it and the story gets more popular. I think this may have worked to make Naruto more popular and become one of the staples of Shonen Jump for 15 years. However, I think the story and the narrative would have benefited from at least an additional arc between the Land of Waves and the Chunin Exams. And if the arc had the same quality, or if it was even better than the Land of Waves, then yeah, absolutely, this would have been good for the story. It would have given Naruto and the other main characters another more regular shinobi mission, because after the Land of Waves, every single mission Naruto goes on is kind of wacky in terms of a regular shinobi. He's either going to the Chunin Exams, fighting the Akatsuki, going after Sasuke, a rogue ninja. Those are very out there when it comes to your regular shinobi missions, and it would have been good to see another one of those more regular missions. Fact number 2. Gaara's forehead tattoo means love. You may have known this, but it's very interesting because it ties very well with Gaara's character. He thought he could only love himself because of the demon within. Gaara saw himself as the demon, and in order to feel alive, Gaara had to kill other people. He could only love himself, but after Naruto Attack no Jutsus him, obviously he learns to love other people. And eventually in the war arc, we see the realization of that arc, when Gaara learns that it wasn't Shukaku protecting automatically with the sand, no, it was his mom's love for him, perfectly tying up with the tattoo he's always had. Number 3, a total of 153 participants joined the Chunin Exams. In other words, 51 teams of 3 genins. 87 genins were from the Leaf Village, 30 from the Sand, 21 from the Rain, 6 from the Waterfall, 6 from the Grass, and 3 from the Sound Village. We see all those numbers broken down when Kabuto is telling our rookies about how the Chunin Exams work and the information about several characters that they're asking for. Number 4, Kankuro used a very interesting method to cheat in the written test of the Chunin Exams. He used a puppet to disguise itself as one of the proctors, so it would allow Kankuro to cheat and pass his answers to Mari. But the thing is, when Ibiki and the other proctors show up to that room, the puppet is already among them. It is already disguised as a proctor, so it's very strange to think that they didn't realize there was a puppet amidst them. Kankuro even thinks that, and then at the end, when Kankuro comes back from the bathroom, he's like, oh, did Ibiki realize that I have a puppet? Because he said something about dolls to Kankuro. Oh, are you done playing with dolls? And maybe the proctors just allowed Kankuro to do that because it was part of the exam trying to cheat anyway, and maybe they just took 2 points off of him because that's what you lost when you were caught cheating. But also, this means Kankuro had to somehow infiltrate among the proctors and install his puppet so he could use this method of cheating, and it feels like he didn't even have to control his puppet through chakra strings because the puppet shows up with the proctors, but it wasn't nearby Kankuro before that. So what's going on there? Does Kankuro have some sort of mental control over his puppet? Maybe it's not as powerful as the control he would have if he used the chakra threads? A very strange possibility. This may be something Kishimoto didn't flesh out completely because Kankuro's powers weren't completely developed up until that point in the story, so he was just like, yeah, no, Kankuro has this puppet, but then after that, Kishimoto develops how the puppet masters work, manipulating the puppet through the chakra threads. It's something we never see again. I guess we see something kind of similar with Sasori controlling people, those sand ninjas he had control over, but that's not the same thing because the proctor Kankuro infiltrator was literally a puppet. Number 5, in the manga, there is a random guy that sits close to Naruto that is wearing this headband that that depicts the symbol of a crescent moon, a village that we had never seen or heard about before. When I first saw it, I thought it was just a mistake in the colored version of the manga, so I saw the black and white version. It was the same thing. There's a guy from the Crescent Moon village taking the Chunin Exams, apparently. I suppose it's an esoteric village of sorts. And the even more intriguing part is that this guy passed the exams because the only panel he ever shows up on is after Ibiki decides, yep, nobody else is going to give up here, so they're going to pass the written exams. It's before he announces they've passed, but it's a panel before he's going to make the announcement. So yeah, this guy obviously passes the exams. And in the panel, he's all nervous, just like Naruto is, expecting what Ibiki is going to say. And yeah, I scoured the manga, looking every single panel in the Chunin Exams for this guy to show up again, and none of the other character designs matched him in those panels in the Forest of Death, or even before in the written exams, whenever there are several characters in the same panel. It's likely Kishimoto wasn't really keeping track of the random genins that were part of the Chunin Exams, and this was just like a drawing mistake, because in the anime, they changed this guy's design completely in the same scene. He's not wearing a crescent moon headband, and his overall design, his hair, his clothes, everything is different. Number 6, 78 genins passed the written test of the Chunin Exams, or 26 teams. And that's thanks to Naruto, because his little speech there bolstered their courage. Ibiki himself recognizes that after he sees that nobody else is giving up after Naruto decides not to give up. Anko also comments on how many there were left and that Ibiki didn't do a very good job, and Ibiki was like, no, I think these guys are actually a better batch than usual. Number 7, Shino and Kiba killed 3 leaf genins with the Konoha leeches. A lot of people forget this part of the story because it's very much in the beginning of the Forest of Death, and it's a quick scene. But there are these 3 leaf ninjas. I think they're going to sneak up on Shino, Kiba, and Hinata, and they're very smug about it. But then they get caught on this net with the leeches, and Kiba even says that if you don't take them off of you in a few minutes, you're gonna die. And it very much feels like they weren't going to make it in that situation, so they were absolutely ruthless there. Number 8, Sasuke's kunai leg throw. This is not much of a fact. I mean, obviously it is a fact because it happens, but I just wanted to mention it. It's a really cool scene when Sasuke uses his chakra control on the sole of his foot, not to climb a tree, but to stick a kunai to it, and then he launches the kunai with his leg. It's in that initial fight between the Rang village guy and Team 7. I'm just kind of sad this never happens again in the entire series because it looks so great. The only thing that kind of comes close to that is in the War Arc when Obito kicks a kunai like Kakashi launched to him, and Obito kicks it at Naruto, but he doesn't use his chakra to control it, which I would say makes much more sense. Number 9, everyone knows Orochimaru takes Shiore's face before infiltrating the Forest of Death. Shiore, that ninja from the Grass Village. But one thing people don't realize is that the other 2 ninjas from the Grass Village were also killed alongside Shiore, and their faces were also taken. And as Orochimaru is about to enter the Forest of Death, those 2 guys that were Shiore's companions were also alongside Orochimaru, meaning that somebody else is entering the Forest of Death with Orochimaru. Probably a couple of allies, but who would they be? I mean, I thought about Yoroi and Mizumi, Kabuto's companions, because Kabuto meets Team 7 alone and he only meets them back up in the tower itself, so they could be playing that role, but we also see them outside before the teams enter the Forest of Death, so I'm like, yeah, it's probably not them. Maybe it was Kimimaro, or maybe it was 2 members of the Sound 4, or maybe Orochimaru just created 2 shadow clones to take their appearances, but it's a strange fact that was never really resolved. Number 10, the dumb plan for the scroll opening failure. Remember that in the Forest of Death, the goal was to collect 2 scrolls, one that you already have and one that you're gonna get from another team, and take them to the tower in the middle of the forest. You couldn't open the scroll though. This would result in your immediate disqualification. But what actually physically happened when you opened the scroll was that it was going to summon a ninja to your location, and that ninja was supposed to beat up the Genin team. So on top of failing the exams, if you open the scroll, you also get a beating, which is not great. But the ninja chosen to take care of Team 7, should they choose to open their scroll, was Iruka. Now, humor me for a second here, but Iruka would have no chance of defeating Team 7. Naruto created 1,000 shadow clones in chapter 1 to defeat Mizuki, a guy that was beating Iruka up. And that was chapter 1. Sasuke, in the very beginning of the Land of Waves arc, before they even go through their training, was stomping, casually destroying 2 Chunins from the Mist Village in the Demon Brothers. Sasuke was also able to destroy several Zabuza water clones, and he was relative to Haku in Taijutsu before Haku uses the House of Mirrors. I mean, Sakura, I give it to you, she wouldn't couldn't do much against Iruka, but Naruto and Sasuke? What? Are you crazy? Are you letting Iruka do that? I mean, maybe after the fight against Orochimaru when Naruto got nerfed because Orochimaru used the 5-pronged seal, which completely messes up his chakra, making it very difficult to control, so Naruto couldn't use his jutsus effectively, and Sasuke got the curse mark, meaning that he couldn't use his chakra, or he felt an immense amount of pain and couldn't even stand or activate his Sharingan, but before that? No way. Even after that, I still think nerfed Naruto and Sasuke would beat Iruka. Also, this makes me think, who would they choose to take care of Gaara's team if they opened the scroll? Because Gaara was killing Jonins when he was 6 years old. Imagine for some reason Gaara or Temari or Conqueror opened the scroll and then a random Chunin from the Leaf Village shows up and Gaara just sand coffins the guy. I guess that's possible. Number 11. 21 Genins passed the Forest of Death trial, but Kabuto quits before the preliminaries, making 10 matches for the preliminaries. That was very convenient. What would happen if Kabuto stayed though? Would they just choose a random Genin to pass without having to fight? They were choosing the fights randomly, so I guess one would be randomly selected to just pass to the final round. Number 12. Sasuke, and by extension, users of the Sharingan can use copied abilities that they copied with the Sharingan without having the Sharingan activated. We find out about this when Sasuke uses the initial stage of the primary Lotus, which he copied from Rock Lee before they even start the Chunin Exams. He uses that against Yoroi in the first fight of the preliminaries and follows it up with his original combo, the Lion Barrage. So you just need to have the Sharingan activated for when you're going to copy the jutsu and not for when you're going to use it. Number 13. The Temari versus Tenten fight lasts for one panel in the manga. Now granted, it's a big panel, but it's the only thing we get to see for Temari versus Tenten, and it's that panel when Tenten is outstretched on top of Temari's fan. Everything else you see in the anime is absolute filler. And yeah, it's better in the manga because that fight's garbage. It just tanks the pacing, and the point of having that fight very short was to show how powerful the Sand Ninjas were, preparing the ground for the Gaara versus Lee fight. So it's just much better in the manga. Number 14. Temari casually blocks Lee's kick with her fan. And one thing you have to think about is that Rock Lee still had his weights on when he dealt that kick to Temari, and Temari thought it was a pretty weak kick. Well, like, didn't she feel the weights of the weights? Because of the inertia, that should kick her pretty well, right? Look at the craters they created when Rock Lee dropped them from that statue. And Temari just casually parrying that? It's a lot of inertia. So either Temari is absurdly strong in taijutsu, or Kishimoto doesn't really know physics very well. Oh no! A manga writer doesn't know physics! It's almost as though this would completely destroy any argument that power scalers have when it comes to actual physics. Number 15. Apparently Pyrrhus of Epirus exists in the Naruto world because Neji mentions that even if Rock Lee had won the fight against Gaara, that would have been a Pyrrhic victory. And a Pyrrhic victory, for those of you who don't know, is a victory that, even though you won, dealt you so much damage that you might as well have lost. This saying comes from Pyrrhus of Epirus, which was a Greek king that lived in the 3rd century BC and attacked the early Roman Republic several times, winning every single major battle, and yet his army was so devastated with each victory that he had to go away and quit attacking the Romans. Now, obviously, this is not a serious point. Obviously, this ancient Greek king didn't exist in the Naruto world. It's just funny that in the translated version, Neji mentions it. I don't know what he actually says in the Japanese, because I don't really speak Japanese, but the expression Pyrrhic victory was probably the best way for you to translate what Neji was saying. Number 16. 9 Genins passed to the final round of the Chunin Exams. Even though there were 10 matches, one of them was a double KO, Sakura versus Ino, so none of the two passed to the finals. And it's funny because that's pretty much the only double KO in the entire series. Number 17. Dosu, the mummy man, died before the finals, so there were only 8 participants, which meant that Shikamaru wouldn't have to have an additional fight, and everybody would start at the quarterfinals. Number 18. Naruto and Sasuke would have fought in a hypothetical semifinal. Number 19. Kakashi used the first inner gate to climb all the way over that mountain when he was training in the interval between the preliminaries and the finals of the Chunin Exams, so he can at least open one of the gates, and that's when Sasuke meets with him, and they go to train the Chidori. Number 20. In chapter 96, anticipating the beginning of the Chunin Exams, we see Naruto wearing a Chunin vest. In one of those artistic pages that have nothing to do with the story of the manga, but that Kishimoto draws before the chapter starts, we see him with a vest and a kunai in his mouth, probably in the middle of a mission, hyping the audience up. Oh, is Naruto gonna become a Chunin? Chunin? He's wearing a Chunin vest, that's cool. No, he's not. Naruto never becomes a Chunin. Number 21, and I find this one very strange, because we see Shikamaru using the shadow possession jutsu on Gaara when Gaara tries to kill Rock Lee in the hospital, and then Naruto sucker punches Gaara as he's paralyzed by Shikamaru's shadow, and Shikamaru feels the punch. So the shadow possession also transfers over the sensation of the target to the user, which was not something that was set up before, and it never becomes relevant again. Well, I guess that's because Shikamaru learns other jutsus that actually deal damage with the shadow, so if he were to damage himself as he was using the shadow on the target, that wouldn't make any sense. But I guess Kishimoto came up with that mechanism to nerf the shadow possession, so you couldn't just capture somebody with a shadow possession and somebody else comes and kills that person. But also when Shikamaru fought against Kin, he made her plonk her head on the wall as she was possessed by his shadow, and he didn't feel that. And yes, Shikamaru came up with a strategy to toss his own kunai and make Kin dodge when he was also dodging it with a shadow possession, so Kin wouldn't resist it, because you can resist a shadow possession and not completely imitate the user's movements. However, because Shikamaru tossed a kunai and therefore Kin tossed it as well, he was going to dodge it and Kin was going to dodge it too and not resist it because she didn't want to get hit by a shuriken. But because the wall was behind her, she just hit the wall really hard and passed out. But Shikamaru was completely fine. So did Shikamaru just release the shadow a split second before she hit the head on the wall? I don't know, we don't see that happening at all. As a matter of fact, it feels like Shikamaru's shadow is still outstretched when he is leaning down. So maybe Kishimoto just came up with that thing of the shadow possession dealing damage to the user later and didn't realize that he had resolved the fight against Kin in a way that wouldn't make sense if that was the case. Number 22. Sasuke learned the Chidori in about 2 weeks or so because he stayed in the hospital for a couple of weeks. So no, Sasuke was not training for the Chidori during that entire month of interval between the preliminaries and the finals. Maybe a bit less even, which makes it very impressive for Sasuke to master that jutsu so quickly. And also Rock Lee's taijutsu speed, which was a prerequisite for him to master Chidori. Number 23. The only reason why Neji lost to Naruto was because he deactivated his Byakugan after their final clash. When Neji comes off the ground, he is no longer depicting the veins on his face, meaning his Byakugan is no longer activated. And so he can see Naruto literally in the ground, coming from below, breaking the rock, and hitting Neji from below. I never really liked the way Naruto beats Neji in that fight. It feels a little too convenient. Now, even if Neji didn't have the Byakugan activated, wouldn't he have reacted to Naruto coming from below? I have to imagine Naruto wouldn't be able to be as fast as he usually is if he's literally emerging out of the ground. But I guess you could say Neji's body was fatigued and even hurt from the final clash they had. And because he didn't have his Byakugan activated, it makes sense that Neji wouldn't literally see Naruto with his eyes, because otherwise, yeah, he would see him. Even the Sharingan can see chakra beneath the ground. We see that in the Deidara vs Sasuke fight. So the Byakugan, which has a specific ability to see through solid objects, would have no trouble doing that at all. Number 24. Sasuke's new clothes are very cool, but that's not the fact. The fact is that Sasuke's new shirt and shorts, the black version of his outfit, that's just one piece of clothing. Unlike the outfit he used before, which was white shorts with a blue shirt, a regular shirt and regular shorts, now it's just one piece with a zipper on the side, meaning that Sasuke has to enter his clothes from the side, close the zipper, and then he's ready to go. Also, the new bandages that he's using around his left arm are supposed to contain the power of the Chidori. They look very cool and different. And we can see there are 3 special things here. First, we have the regular white bandages that pretty much every single ninja uses somewhere. But then we have that black cord that's wrapped around his arm, and that kind of locks into place on Sasuke's palm. And when Sasuke is going to use the Chidori, he has to actually detach it. We see that in a very quick panel that most people miss, but it's a very interesting detail. Also, there's that thing which kind of looks like one of those sports sleeves around Sasuke's elbow, and that one's probably meant to dampen the impact of the Chidori when Sasuke hits something with it. Later in the Search for Tsunade arc, when Sasuke uses that Chidori completely enraged against Itachi without the bandages and the black cord, we see his skin literally ripping off his arm. He wasn't completely able to contain the power of the Chidori at that point, which I find a very interesting concept that's kind of forgotten because later on Sasuke learns how to master Chidori completely and he doesn't get hurt while using it, which is kind of a shame because the outfit he has for the Chunin Exams is one of my favorite outfits for Sasuke. when he shows up with Kakashi and all the leaves in the middle of the arena. That's a very hype moment, and we see the new outfit. It's not a very hype moment in the anime because the way they animate Sasuke's face in a particular shot there is absolutely disgusting. Like, what the hell is this? But anyways, it's a very cool outfit. You enter from the side. The sleeve's very interesting. Moving on to number 25. Kishimoto's editor was the one who came up with the idea to cut the Chunin Exams short in the middle of the final round and start the invasion. Originally, Kishimoto was going to finish the tournament and then the invasion was going to happen. But once again, Kishimoto's editor interfered. He wanted the story to have a faster pace. He wanted the hype to stay high. So he told Kishimoto to cut things short and start the invasion out of the gate. Kishimoto actually had planned who was going to win the Chunin Exams. That was going to be Shikamaru. That's one of the reasons why Shikamaru is the only one promoted to the Chunin rank later on, even though he technically loses in the first round of the finals, that is. And honestly, I kind of like that. I like the quote-unquote tradition of the Chunin Exams never being completed, and I'm fine with the tournament not playing now until the end, because what happens in the Konoha Crush arc, which I consider to be the climax of the Chunin Exams, just amazing. And maybe if you had to end the entire tournament before the attack began, the narrative thrust would diminish. So yeah, I kind of like that editor change. Number 26. Another one of the editor changes, or should I say additions in this case, is that Kishimoto's editor was the one who came up with the idea to include Orochimaru in the Chunin Exams as a foil more to the adult characters, as Gaara is the foil to the younger characters, which makes a lot of sense, right? Especially if you want to end the Chunin Exams with this massive invasion of the Leaf Village, you're going to need a powerful character that the powerful characters of the village are going to fight against. Let me know in the comments how many of these facts you didn't know. Watch this video right here to find out who would have actually won the Chunin Exams if Orochimaru hadn't invaded. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and please ring notifications. Those are very important. It helps me out a lot. And thank you so much for watching.